Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Welcome. It looks like we've been joined by quite a few others, so thank you for joining us tonight. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. It's nice to be in my office and sharing with you. So as we start here, I'll give just a moment more as more are showing up here. Thank you for attending our annual college information night. My name is Amanda Smith, if we have not yet met, Director of Counseling, and joined by our fellow counselors here. Our whole counseling team is here, and Colin O'Connor, our assistant principal, and Father McGarry has joined us for the beginning as well. So welcome, Father McGarry.
If I could just say a few words when we're ready to start. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, looks like we have a couple more joining us. I will do some introductions here as we start. So our team is comprised of 6 counselors. We have Mr. Ian Farr, who wants to say hello or wave, Miss Angela Harger, Miss Jennifer Rasmussen, Mr. Chris Seibert, Miss Kathy Van Liefde. Of course, if you joined us earlier, Mr. O'Connor was here as well, and Father McGarry. Father, would you like to say hello before I begin prayer?
Sure, of course, yes. So I'm very gratified to see that we have 221, at least that's what I'm seeing, Mandy, 222 yes. Now. Parents and perhaps some students, is it only parents?
Students were welcome to join, but mostly good. For parents.
Well, I'm just very grateful to be here with you all. You know, I can't pass up the opportunity to speak to a crowd or a group from Jesuit High School. I wish we could be together in the Harris Center, which is where we would be normally if we were doing this. So I just want to greet you all, dear parents and students. And I want to say thank you to our counseling staff to whom you've just been introduced. I'm very grateful to all of them for the work they do for our students. You know, in our complex world these days, in a high school setting, where we are about the day-to-day work of education and formation, it's a lot about the classroom and what goes on in the classroom. But for us in Jesuit schools, of course, counseling is a very important piece of our integrated approach to education. And it's so essential that we provide integrated counseling services for our students, academic counseling, personal counseling, health and wellness counseling. So I'm so grateful to the counselors who are here with you this evening and the expertise that they bring and the sensitivity that they bring in working with our students. I'm also grateful to Colin O'Connor, who's a distinguished graduate of our school. He was a student here when I was principal. That says more about my age than about Colin, but he is he's new in this role this year as assistant principal for academics. He's doing a great job already so far. So you are in great hands this evening with all these wonderful people. I can't see you, but I wish I could. But I just wanted to come on for a few minutes to say thank you for being with us. We are here to serve you, to help you and your sons in every aspect of counseling, whether it's college counseling or personal counseling or academic counseling or health and wellness counseling. So thank you, parents, for your investment in your son's education at Jesuit High School. If there is anything we can ever do to help you, please do not hesitate to contact us through the appropriate channels of the school, whether it be an individual teacher, an individual counselor, or an academic or other administrator. We're always here to help you. So thank you. God bless you. And I look forward to the day when we can reconvene in person. Thank you very much, Mrs. Smith, for your leadership.
Thank you for your time. We have 2 members here that I did not mention because our team is pretty much a counseling family as we are here at Jesuit. Ms. Casey Cardinale. She is our wellness counselor. You've likely seen messages coming from her speaking to the wellness piece. And Ms. Wasma Kakar, who is joining us this evening. She is our counseling administrative assistant and all things counseling centered for us. She is the woman behind the curtain who's been, you've likely seen the email. So if you have not interacted with any of us yet, please know we are all here working together as a team. So it looks like we have a full group now, and while we are very grateful for the opportunity to host this event tonight, I would like to take a moment to just pray together as well. So in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, amen. God, we ask your blessing and guidance as we celebrate the beginning of our class of 2022's college path. We give thanks to the parents, families, friends, guardians, mentors, and all who have helped make these great people who they are today. Bless us as we prepare in the next step of their education. We pray that we might be inspired by new places, new things, new people, new opportunities, new challenges. Grant us accepting hearts and open minds, and give us the courage to truly act as we are called to be in the world. We pray that the class of 2022 and all of our students will thrive academically, morally, and spiritually as they make the most of their Jesuit experience. In this we pray. Saint Ignatius of Loyola, pray for us. North American martyrs, pray for us. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So thank you for joining us this evening. We're going to go ahead and pull up our presentation for tonight. We have quite a full evening, so please know that we are recording this event, and we will be happy to share the presentation with you if for chance you aren't able to stay with us for the entire evening. Again, we are the Jesuit High School Counseling Department. Our evening tonight will be an overview of the next information here. Let me see what our next steps are. We have everyone is going to be giving a little bit more of an overview of each of these major components for us. So the comprehensive college counseling, the search, the testing, the applications, the paying for college, and I will be answering your questions as we go along live as appropriate, and then we will have a full Q&A at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Mr. Ian Farr.
Thank you, Mandy. Thanks for the great introduction and also for leading this program. I'm just going to spend a few minutes with you guys talk about college advising as one of the major things that we do. As Mrs. Smith mentioned, we are a comprehensive counseling department, so we do it all. We get to know your sons really well. From the start of freshman year to the end of fall semester junior year, there's some things that you might want to have your students focus on for college admissions. And one is to challenge yourself. We want students to really take as challenging a caseload as they can without overburdening themselves. We want them to be able to excel in their classes. And so when we work with your student each year on scheduling it, as we're going to do this spring, we are going to we're going to push them and challenge them to take the best classes they can that they're eligible to take. And that they're able to do with the load that is there. And that will, as they work and get the best grades they can, that is really the best prep our freshmen, sophomores, juniors can do for college. Really all our students can do for college admission is just get the best grades possible and be as prepared as they possibly can be. Getting involved is really important. I think one, as far as enjoying Jesuit High School, but also to really be able to speak to what your strengths are in your college application, is by doing a lot of co-curricular or outside Jesuit interests. This, as you write about when you do your essays, your college application, having experiences to pull from is going to really help colleges understand who your student is, which is definitely helps a lot in the college application process. They're going to explore college preferences. We use Naviance, campus tours, college rep visits. These are all things we do to help your student understand what colleges are out there outside maybe their relatively limited scope of what schools. And typically students know the schools their parents went to, their grandparents, family members, and things they hear about, especially if they're into college sports. But there is a lot of schools out there. And so we really want students to start thinking about expanding their scope as far as what schools they might want to apply to. Sometimes what they're interested are, the programs they're interested in are going to be better served in schools that they might have never heard of. And so we do a lot to try to get their knowledge of the different colleges and the programs out there. And of course, to prepare for the SAT and ACT, there are different testing timelines based upon where they are in their preparation. Math drives a lot of that. And so I think one of the best ways, again, to prepare, especially for the ACT, is to do well in school and do well in the classes. But we will guide your students through that process through pre-ACT and SAT opportunities and other ways of getting them ready for those exams. We realize things are changing in the world of standardized testing, and so we'll continue to give the best information that we have as your student prepares for those exams. So in junior year, we begin the major college application cycle. What we mean by that is when the student starts to do things that actually impact the college application process. And so that starts off with the PSAT and scheduling those official tests, the SAT and ACT. We will have college admission reps on campus, and they come on campus, and usually they're over by the pool area of the senior quad. And we bring a lot of them in, and we encourage our students, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, especially, to go and talk with these representatives and to meet them. Especially, typically, these are the people, these reps, especially for smaller schools, and even for the larger schools that come on campus to meet the students, are the ones who are reading the applications. So it's a great opportunity for our students to learn a little more about colleges, but also let the person who'll be reading their application learn about them as well. We work with them building their college lists and resumes. The college list is in Naviance, and that gives them a list of colleges for them to think about, again, expanding their scope of knowledge of colleges that they're looking at. We have college information night, which you're at right now. Congratulations, great to have you here. Junior spring collaborations that we meet with them in the morning to talk about college admissions, creating the Common App account and profile. We have an alumni career event typically most years when we're not in a pandemic, and that gives an opportunity for your student to meet alumni of Jesuit High School that are out doing their careers, and we speak more to how they got there and what they do. And of course, there's an optional summer college application boot camp that your student can take. Space is limited, so sign up early. And fall semester to senior year is really where a lot of this happens. And the other counselors are going to talk a lot about this stuff, so I'll just gloss over it. But we do, what I will say is that some of these things are things that we have is mandatory. Students have to do them. And other things are things that are available for students to take advantage of, but we don't require them to do it. So things that we require are senior family meetings. We set those up for all students, and we try to make these appointments with their students and their families to talk about college admissions and fall the senior year. Fall, the collaborations for seniors are also things that seniors are required to attend. Things that they can take advantage of, but we don't require or go out and ask them to attend, but it's there for them, are college application workshops, which are done recently on Sundays, but on the further history were done at lunchtime. But these are things available for them to come and get additional help on working their application. Essay writing workshops and paying for college parent events, which are usually at night. And we let you know about other ones maybe off campus, but these are not required, but they're available to you. And of course, we are always available to our students, always, for anything, but especially if they have questions about college admissions, they can email us. When we're on campus, they can just drop by our offices and talk to us. Here's some resources. I definitely take advantage and just go out and see what they are. We'll continue to share these with you in different places. One of the things I do want to point to is the counseling newsletter, which comes out every 6 weeks. There's a lot of information in the counseling newsletter. So look for those, read them, go through them, especially as you get closer to your senior year. There's a lot of important information about the college admissions process and what we're doing for your students. And here's some other links for you to look at. And hopefully you'll have a chance to go back and click through some of these, like the College Planning Handbook. Naviance is an important tool that we use, and we require all the students to get on and log on, but you can get on that with your student and search and look through. And I know Mr. Seibert will be going over that a little bit more about what you can see on Naviance. And of course, a sample of some college internet sites. And that is my time. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Chris Seibert.
Thank you, Mr. Farr. We appreciate the the introduction to some of the things that we're going to be talking about by Mr. Farr. The first thing I'd like to say is we have to keep in mind that college should be a match to be made, not a prize to be won. So let's keep that in mind as we go through all of the process that we help students navigate in the college application search and process. So a lot of students come to us thinking as underclassmen, I've got to get into the prestigious school, the right school, the ranked school, as if, you know, college is a certain type of trophy. But what we really want to be thinking about is how does who I am match with certain colleges that are out there. And some of those we'll know about, and many of those we won't know. So that's part of the process, is being ready to step into situations that you may not even be familiar with at the time we start. A lot of students think they have to take prep courses, have to hire outside help, have to go out and hire an outside counselor. We want to assure you that we will step your son through a very comprehensive process in the application and research phase of college. So we feel like you are going to be very well prepared in going through our application and research process. So no need to be anxious. That's why we are with your sons for 4 years, so that we can walk them through this process. And the college search is one that includes over 4,000 schools. So we want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. So searching for a college, let's move from myth to reality. First thing that's really important is to know yourself. Be aware of what your right fit characteristics are. And you can see some of those characteristics listed here. Size, we have schools that vary from 1,000 students to large public universities of 50,000 and more. They're like towns unto themselves. So know what you're searching for as far as size goes. Major, really important, right? You know, if you want to be a sauce chef and you go to a kitchen that is only set up for pastry chef, it's not going to matter how good the ingredients are. You can't reach your goal of being a sauce chef. So we have to make sure that the majors and programs fit who you are and who you'd like to become. There's, of course, region and climate. That is an important consideration. Do you want to end up in the Rocky Mountains and SoCal beaches? You know, Silicon Valley, you want to be on the East Coast. These are all things that students will need to consider. And then there's learning style. You know, do you want to be in a great books curriculum where you're discussing concepts, or do you want a classic lecture and test method as the learning style, or do you want a more hands-on approach? These are things that students need to know about the schools that they intend to apply to. So one of our major programs that we use, as Mr. Farr alluded to, is Naviance Student. And some of the things that we walk students through with Naviance are scattergrams. That, I think, all of us as counselors agree is one of the greatest tools we have, because it gives you a snapshot of what a typical student acceptance rate looks like for different colleges based on GPA and testing. We've got a lot of college data to compare yourself to all applicants, and you can see some of the resources that are listed here. College data is one of them. Someone who we have tapped into a lot for essays is the college essay guy. There are tremendous resources out there, and we really recommend that you tap into what is available to you. And in a non-pandemic year, of course, we're hosting many of the college admissions reps that represent schools, over 120 during a typical year. And those are in the fall, of course, in the senior quad. As Mr. Farr mentioned, those folks will be on the the committee that decides applications. So here is another non-pandemic screen, but we do recommend and we do hope and pray that we're going to have these types of visits available to us, but we encourage students to have an being there experience, so you can get a sense of what's the vibe like, what is the atmosphere of a campus, what does housing look like, do you want to be in a traditional dorm, are there off-campus opportunities? The social part of college, of course, is a big part of maturation, and you want to know what gathering places look like. Are you interested in Greek life? What kind of organizations and clubs are present? Food, of course, very important consideration, especially for young men. Eat a meal and investigate what meal plans look like. And then the extras are important. What do athletics look like? Are students looking to play? Or many students want to be a part of a Division I high energy athletic atmosphere. You know, those are things to be considered, as well as, you know, special programs. Does the college have the music or drama program that you're looking for? And because we are kind of moving with the times as the pandemic allows us to, we have special college nights. Usually we will have UC and Cal State and Jesuit college fairs. We just can't say which ones will be going on, but those are really important touchstones for getting good information about colleges you want to apply to. So the Naviance features, this is an overview. You can see that you've got pricing for colleges that you might do research on. You can see graduation rate, which is an important consideration. If colleges are retaining students, that's probably a good sign that the satisfaction with the campus is high. You can see acceptance rate. That'll let you know how difficult it is to get into a school. That varies from anywhere in the 90% to all the way down to about 5% for some of the more selective schools. Okay. Next slide, please, Wasmer. So here is a scattergram for UCLA. This is a more selective school, right? I think we're all familiar with that fact. And you can see where the two axes, the dotted lines cross, that's going to be where a typical student gets accepted to UCLA. And all of those green checks represent students at Jesuit who over the past 5 years have applied and been accepted to UCLA. And then the red X's are those who have applied and did not get accepted. And you can get some pretty good information as far as, okay, what does a typical GPA look like? What do the credentials of students who are getting into UCLA look like? And then we'll move on to another scattergram. Here's Chico State, a less competitive school in the CSU system. You can see that the scattergram, the line where the axes cross is lower, and you also see a lot more green. So if I'm looking at my own credentials, and let's say I'm a 3.5 GPA, my chances of getting into UCLA are more slim. Whereas if I look at Chico State, obviously I can see that I have a better chance of getting into this campus, and then I can start doing more research about what programs and features they have that might make it a right fit for me. And then we have our third, this is St. Mary's, a school that we do send a lot of students to. Very good school, but you can also see that they love our students. They love Jesuit High School students. You only see a smattering of red X's and a whole lot of green. So this would be a school that, you know, many students would apply to, and as a safety option, a school that you are more than likely to be accepted into. We've got other features, and you know, we could go into this as much as you know, you'd like, but you can get comparisons. So comparing yourself versus schools like CSU Fresno and then UC Santa Barbara, and what do your credentials look like for getting into those schools. This is another great feature of Naviance. And then just some essentials. We want to build our college list. First, colleges we are thinking about. We want to cast a really wide net at this point. If schools are have features that we like, let's go ahead and get them on our schools we're thinking about, so that we can then pare it down into eventually colleges I'm applying to, where we do a little more of a litmus test and figure out which schools are potentially the right fit for us as students. And then we have some other concepts and things that we do within Naviance that are important for the college application process. Parent brag sheet, where you get to tell us all about the great achievements and character traits of your son. He does the same thing for himself in the student brag sheet. Every student does a resume, and these allow us as counselors to write the most robust letter of recommendation for our students to help them with their application process. They'll need to request teacher letters of recommendation, and it's very important that they do this in a timely fashion and give teachers plenty of time in the fall for their letter writing. We'll also in Naviance do some career exploration, some interest inventories, career clusters, trying to match majors with careers that they are interested in. So I hope this helps. And we of course also want to talk about scholarship resources, but I'm gonna leave it at that because later on that will be discussed more comprehensively. So with that, I think I am moving on with Kathy Van Liefde to take over college testing.
Thank you, Mr. Seibert. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here. Let's get started with college testing. Right now, things are kind of in a flux because of COVID. So what's happening is the same thing that happened to our students in the fall of 2021, or the fall of 2020, excuse me. Most schools were optional when it came to testing. And that's going to be the same for this next cycle that we're moving through. But you always want to double check and make sure that you're accurate with the schools that you're talking about. So there's a link that you can use to find out exactly what schools are test optional. Traditionally, most schools will require either the SAT or the ACT. So I am going to go through material about the test. If we've got sophomore parents out there, freshman parents, we don't know what's going to be happening in the future. So traditionally, most students take their first test the spring of their junior year. So May or June or April is when we would say our juniors should take the SAT or ACT. And then following the summer, they can come back the fall of their senior year and retest. And there are 3 test dates traditionally that would be happening: October, November, or December. And schools accept either the SAT or the ACT. And in a bit, I'm going to show you the differences between the tests. So they are different. So be aware of that. And we are going to be offering some practice tests. And that's a nice way to take the SAT and the ACT and find out which test actually is better for you. Both tests are writing or non-writing. The CSUs have suspended the use of the test for the fall of 2021, and the UCs will not consider the test scores. And so testing is not needed for those 2 systems. And then again, you want to contact the school that you're looking at if it's not a CSU or a UC to find out what they are doing. But again, most of the schools will be test optional. There are also a set of tests called the SAT subject tests. These are 1-hour exams in a particular subject. The UC does not use this for admission, but they are still looking at them for recommendations for some majors. And again, it's a recommendation. It's not a requirement. And if it's needed, you should plan to take 2 to 3 different exams. And there is a link to the UC requirement. Also, some of our prestigious universities traditionally will require the subject tests. However, that has changed also. And so there is a link to the College Board of a list of schools that are requiring the tests, but most schools are recommending them. Here are some similarities. As I said, they're different tests. So here are some similarities. They both have 4 sections and they both have an optional essay. So you can take it with the writing or without the writing. There is no penalty for any incorrect answer. Multiple choice gives 4 options, A, B, C, or D, except on the ACT for the math, they have 5 options. So your answer could be A, B, C, D, or E, and both are equally accepted from the universities. But there are some key differences. The SAT has a greater focus on history and social studies. The ACT requires more science reading. They both focus on algebra, but the SAT has a greater emphasis on data analysis and problem solving. The SAT, essay requires additional text analysis. The SAT has a no calculator math section where you complete problems without the use of a calculator. And the SAT also has math sections where you complete the problem and write in your answer. There's not a multiple choice for it. And the SAT, a lot of their math questions require multi-parts. They're not just direct answers. You have to do a couple of steps to get to the answer. And here's the difference of the essays. For the SAT, your student's gonna look at a document and explain how the author builds the argument. For the ACT, they're gonna require your student to analyze one of 3 different perspectives. Okay, so that's how the writing is different, and then the scoring is different for those. There are 3 scores on the ACT essay of a scale of 2 to 8, and it's gonna cover your reading, your analysis, and your writing. For the ACT, the essay is going to have a score from 2 to 12, and there are 4 scores. You're gonna be scored on the ideas and the analysis, the development and the support, the organization, and the language use. And sending scores. You get 4 free send scores with each company. So the SAT, you have 9 days after you take the test to go back a little bit. You have to send your test scores. Your sons need to send their test scores to the universities. So you have to send your SAT scores to the universities you apply to, and or your ACT scores to the university that they apply to. So for the SAT, you get 4 free reports, and you have up to 9 days after the day that you test to send those 4 free ones. Other than that, you're going to be paying $11.25 per school report that you send to a university. The ACT, the same. They have 4 free sends, but you only have until Thursday after the test date to get those free sends. Other than that, you're going to be spending $13 per report that you send to the universities. We're hope to have ACT testing at Jesuit. We're trying to get SAT testing also, but we haven't heard back from College Board yet. We're hoping to be able to schedule the ACT for Jesuit students. It will be with writing or without writing for April 17th and for June 12th. Once we get that confirmed through ACT, that information will go out to junior parents, and then the registration is going to be completed through the ACT website. But it's going to be just for Jesuit students on campus. We are going to offer our practice tests. Like I said in the previous slides, they are different tests. It's a 4-hour exam. Students are not used to sitting and testing for 4 hours. And so this practice test is a great opportunity for them. They're going to get an idea of what the test is like. They're going to get their scores back, and they can actually find out how they focus during a 4-hour exam. And so there's going to be one on April 3rd. That's our practice SAT. And there's going to be a practice ACT on March 27th. That information is going to be coming out in the January newsletter for registration. And it's also going to be posted in the students' Google Classroom. There's additional test prep if you want. SAT offers free test prep, and that's at Khan Academy. And then ACT also offers free test prep, and that's at the academy.act.org. And then Revolution Prep is available. They're the people that do our practice SAT and ACT. And so our students will get a reduced rate to be able to partner with Revolution Prep. That was fast. That's me. So I'm going to present this over to Jennifer Rasmussen, and she's going to cover the application process. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, so I'm just going to give an overview of the different types of applications that are number one, most popular and most generated by our students. So one of them being the California State Universities, otherwise known as the CSUs. It's one application for all 23 campuses, $70 for each campus that they apply to. But again, it's one application. The filing period opens October 1st and it ends November 30th. What they're looking for is obviously first-time freshmen. They have to meet the eligibility requirements of being a high school graduate, completing the 15-unit comprehensive A through G college preparatory courses, which is something that we will automatically run all of our students through at Jesuit High School because we're a college prep high school. They must have a 2.5 or greater GPA. Right now, the use of ACT and SAT examinations are suspended, and they are for the fall 2021, winter 2022, and spring 2022. So it would be our juniors currently right now who will be applying next year for the fall 2021. Again, the ACT, SAT examinations for the CSUs are suspended. The California State Universities are typically hands-on, and they are known for preparing students for careers. Again, there's websites, so you can be able to go onto the websites and understand a little bit more. The next type of applications are our UCs, our University of Californias. There are 9 campuses. Again, one application, you pay $70 for each campus. The filing period is always opens up August 1st. So our juniors who are to be seniors can go in and start working on their application in the summertime. And then they can begin submitting it November 1st to November 30th. The admissions in regards to the UCs are based on 14 different factors. Each UC does weight differently for all the campuses. Again, the 9 campuses. So UC Davis might look at a student a little differently than, let's say, Cal Berkeley. So it is important that the student understands the variations between the different UCs. Again, there is a link to understand a little bit more about the UCs that we always tell our students to go to. Another type of application is something we call the Common App or Common Application. So this is an application that over 800 private and out-of-state public universities are using. More state public universities are jumping onto it each year. The cost can vary from free to about $90 per college for the one application. Then they will add each college that they want it sent to. The application is actually open for our juniors to begin now, and we will be telling our juniors that they can go in and make their account, start working on it in regards to putting in their activities, their personal information. The only thing they cannot do is anything having to do with the essay or any questions. They can't write those on the application right now. But it will roll over August 1st, 2021 of our juniors that are opening this application. And it'll roll over so then they will be seniors applying. It's a holistic type of application, meaning they're not just looking at the GPA and numbers. It's a 5-page application. They want to know everything, even from parents to siblings to so many various things. So there's also one essay, which is called, it's the large essay that they will be writing. They will pick a prompt, and then each college may have supplemental essays. So that is why we really tell our juniors that if they can start on this and get all the little nitty-gritty things, details completed in their application now, Then when they're the essays are up and ready, they can go in and use their summer to really work on their essays. With the Common Application, there are teacher and counselor recommendations that are attached to it. And it is really important that the students go to each of the college websites to understand a little bit more specific information for each college. We always need to talk about our Jesuit colleges. There are 28 Jesuit colleges that are located in 18 states. The colleges all range from major research universities to comprehensive and liberal art universities. One thing to understand that admission acceptances range for each college. So it is important that we tell our students to do their homework. Just because you are a student that goes to Jesuit High School doesn't mean you're going to get automatic acceptance into a school, let's say like Georgetown. So there are scholarship opportunities for some of the Jesuit graduates at some of these colleges, but not all. So again, it is important that the student does their research on the Jesuit colleges that he wants to apply to. Another way to look at colleges, another group of colleges, we call them our WUI, which is our Western Undergraduate Exchange colleges. And these are going to be our out-of-state public colleges. So what these colleges are, there are agreements with our California students that they are going to offer reduced out-of-state tuition in order for them to go there for out-of-state. And it could come up to be about $7,000 to $8,000 per semester for just tuition. So it is something to understand that we don't want our students to leave college with debt. We don't want them to start their new chapter with a massive chain, which is a debt. So more and more of these WUI colleges are becoming very common and very popular for our students. So some of the popular ones are University of Nevada, Reno, Boise State, Arizona State with certain majors, Southern Oregon University, Washington State. So an example, for instance, on this, you can click on the URL at another time, but Boise State, they give a really nice breakdown. They actually have 2 different types of WUI scholarships, whereas maybe UNR just has a one base scholarship. So I really, really want our students and parents to look in at these colleges. Next slide, please. Other ways to attend colleges are our military academies. This is it's a very, very huge process, but we want our students to begin this now, especially if they're juniors. They need to go in and secure an appointment and send for a pre-candidate questionnaire in the junior year. What happens to they actually have to apply to a senator, each senator and congressman for a nomination. They have to follow the procedures. There's a lot of details in the handbook. We give an example as far as our Air Force, and there is a URL for that. But again, this is just it's a wonderful opportunity, but there's a lot of detail that has to go into it. And then we have our historically Black colleges and universities. So the HBCU, it refers to any accredited institution that was established prior to 1965. The principal mission is the education of Black Americans. However, it doesn't mean you have to be African American or Black to be able to apply to these colleges. So some of the common Black college application, there's 50 different institutions, and the applicants submit one common application that is available to all of these institutions. These colleges give out amazing, amazing scholarships, so we never want anyone to forget about these type of colleges. And then of course we have even our local community colleges, but then there's community colleges in all the different types of counties across the, California, if in other states. It's cost-effective education. Right now there's a California College Promise program, which actually offers free tuition for 2 years as long as the student is going full-time. It is a great place to build the credentials and then be able to transfer after 2 years into a more selective college. If a student is not ready, for, is not ready academically or socially or financially for the 4-year experience, we really, really support this journey. Again, we have a nice URL that you can go in there and you can learn more about this. One thing also to remember, that if your son or if any students that are on this webinar, that if you are hoping to or thinking about or wishing to play Division I, Division II athletics in college, you have to register, which is called the Eligibility Center. And there's forms and there's different rules. So there is the website you will need to go into, register, but also really understand the rules of what you can do, what coaches can do. They give very, very good recommendations on that. There is an online service, and it's called the Core Course GPA. So there is a URL again to go in there and understand and make sure you have all the right, courses, and you're following the requirements for this. And now I'm going to turn this over to Mrs. Angela Harger in regards to paying for college.
Thanks, Ms. Rasmussen. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for being here. This is an incredible turnout. First week back at school, so we're so happy that you could join us tonight. I'm going to touch a little bit on paying for college, which of course is a big part of the conversation. And so I'm going to give a few highlights tonight, but know that we will also do a specific evening program, or actually maybe morning program next year. But in the fall, we will do a more specific event that talks just to the details of financial aid and paying for college. So this is just a brief overview for you tonight. So first, it's important to understand the difference between merit aid and need-based aid. So merit aid are going to be the scholarships that your son may receive, which could be based on their academic achievements, maybe fine arts achievements, athletic scholarships, leadership qualities, those type of things that are going to be awarded by the colleges and universities themselves. Sometimes also small business organizations, or maybe your place of employment may offer different scholarships. And all of those merit-based scholarships are going to be offered based on academics, usually is the most important factor. And then the other type of scholarship is going to be grants, and so those are actually based on need. So those are awarded by the state and federal government. They do not have any academic or athletic tie to them. They're strictly based on need, and colleges and universities can award these grants, and they may be different at various colleges. And we'll talk about the financial aid form that's required for those grants. But those grants are reviewed and evaluated each year, so that could change year to year. Same with the scholarships that I talked about before. Those are going to have certain requirements for renewal, so they may be awarded for the freshman year, and then in order to keep those scholarships for sophomore, junior, senior year, students are going to have to maintain certain requirements to continue to receive those year after year. But that's just important kind of baseline understanding. When you hear people talking about scholarships, really the scholarships are going to be those based on merit, whereas grants is more based on financial need for each individual family. It's also important to know that the scholarships that you may ask about or you may hear about, the largest amount of money that your son is probably going to receive is going to come from the college themselves in the form of those merit-based scholarships. So some colleges may even post on their websites the information about their scholarships and what it takes to qualify for their merit-based scholarships. Some may be as clear as listing the GPA and or test scores that are required to be eligible for those scholarships, and others may keep it a little bit more broad in how they describe what it takes to be considered for scholarships. Again, part of this process, not just in the financial aid piece, but also in the application piece, is that every college is different. And so really Googling is sometimes your best resource, and finding this information on the college website and gathering the information there, because school to school they're each going to be different. So it's important to know what you're looking for. We will also, sorry, I'll move real fast. We will also receive some outside and private scholarships. So those aren't going to be quite as large as what you may receive from the colleges themselves, but these are usually stackable, which means that let's say your son receives some of these private scholarships, he can use those on top of any of the merit-based scholarships that he received from his university as well. So he can just stack those on top of any other scholarships he's received, and he can apply those to any college that he decides to attend. When we receive that information about any different scholarships that are available to our students, we're going to post those in the Google Classrooms for the students, and also in their Naviance Student account. And so students will be receiving quite a bit of that information from us. It's important that they take the next step and follow through on the applications and requirements for those scholarships. So financial aid, there's a couple of different pieces to know when you hear the word financial aid. First is the FAFSA form. And if any of you have older children, maybe you've already experienced the FAFSA. For those of you who are new to this process, this is an important piece to know and understand, and it's not nearly as complicated as it once was. But the FAFSA application will open October 1st of this year, 2021. So for our current juniors who will be rising seniors in the fall, you should be paying attention to this FAFSA application as October 1st approaches. And it is recommended that every family fill out a FAFSA regardless of your total income. So we get this question quite often, especially again, families who have students who have already gone through the process, that they don't feel it's necessary. They already know how it's going to turn out, so they don't think they need to fill out the FAFSA. But some institutions will also use the FAFSA for institutional need-based aid. So depending on the colleges that your son may be applying to, maybe your family doesn't necessarily qualify for aid through the FAFSA, but the college may use that information to see if there's anything they have in their own institutional pool of money that they can give to you based on your FAFSA information as well. So don't rule it out just because of any prior experience that you've had with that. Again, it's up to you. You definitely don't have to complete the FAFSA, but it is our recommendation that everyone does. The other piece to that is that you never know what could change in a given year. And so if you have that FAFSA on file and something changes during the school year, you can go back and they can make adjustments to that. But if you don't have anything on file and something changes, say in your work life, something changes there, you're not going to be able to receive any more money at that point because you didn't have the FAFSA on file from the beginning. So it's kind of just covering yourself in case anything comes up. For rising seniors next fall, your parents will be using the prior tax year, so that will be tax filing to 2019. And we will provide, again, more information about this financial aid topic because it can be in depth. There's a lot of questions, and honestly, the people who work at the colleges in the financial aid department are the professionals here. So we can give you some general overview information, but we'll bring in some people from the college side in the fall who will be able to speak more directly to some of the questions you may have on this topic. The CSS profile is another application to be aware of that opens October 1st as well. This CSS profile is through the College Board, and it's only really required through some private universities. So public schools, this is not required. They don't want this information, but some private universities will require that you also fill out the CSS profile. And again, this is for non-federal financial aid. So it's for that institutional aid that they may be able to provide to you that's separate from the federal financial aid. This is through the College Board, and again, it's going to ask more detailed questions than the FAFSA asks. It gets into a lot more detailed questions to really get a sense of what they can do to help you and what's required from your end. So just this is very quickly, I don't want to confuse you too much in this, but the way that the FAFSA calculates the expected family contribution, which you'll see here is they call EFC, is by taking the total cost of attendance from the school and subtracting that expected family contribution. And that's what they determine is your student financial need. So we're gonna walk through this. I'm gonna show you a couple different things in the next slides that explain this a little bit more. Okay, so the EFC, the expected family contribution, as you can see, is influenced by a number of factors. So first of all, they're gonna ask about this, parents will be asked to pay from their income and assets. Sometimes students' savings and earnings can be calculated into that as well. Things like family size, age of oldest parents, number of children currently attending college, not necessarily private high schools or elementary schools, but college. And then any special circumstances like health-related expenses, etc. So they're gonna gather that information in the FAFSA, and then that's how they come up with that expected family contribution number, that EFC. So on every college website now, they have to provide what they call the net price calculator. So if your son already has an idea of some schools that he may be interested in, you could go to their website tonight or tomorrow and search their net price calculator. And the colleges are gonna ask some general information. So they may ask information about your son's grades, potentially test scores, but again, that's becoming fewer and farther between right now. And maybe some general information about your income, your assets, to give you a general idea of what you may be expected to pay at each college or university. So it's not exact, and some net price calculators are better than others on different college web pages, but it's a great starting place to see, to get an idea, does college A offer any merit-based money at all? Or are they a school that is only going to offer need-based money? And how does that play into effect? How does that play into effect with your family conversations and the conversations that you guys are having about at home about money and paying for college? So the net price is the amount that a student pays to attend in a single year after subtracting those scholarships and grants. So it's important that you focus on the net price and not the sticker price. Especially with the private schools, the sticker price is usually going to be pretty expensive and sometimes very shocking. And so that's why we want to make sure that families and students aren't just looking at that sticker price, that you're going into their websites, taking a look at their net price, gathering some more information, looking at what scholarships your son may qualify for, and get a better idea of what that net price may end up looking like, because it's probably going to look a lot different than the sticker price. So this is just an example of a pretty pricey private university. So estimated cost of attendance up there with room and board, tuition and fees, everything is about $66,000. Then if you take a look at the estimated grant, you have about close to $13,000 in grants. And then down below, the students going to take out a loan for $5,500 and also got some work study money as well. So they're able to contribute $8,000, which means the remaining cost there is $45,000. So still very pricey, price tag certainly, but it gives you an idea of really what that number may look like. It's less than the initial sticker price. And I just want to reiterate this, that planning how to finance a degree has become a more prominent part of the college application process. It's really important that this may even be kind of the beginning of your conversations with your sons. In our experience, we've seen, families who maybe delay in having these conversations about the financial piece, and the students have already made their list and they've gotten excited about their colleges and they apply and they're accepted, and then they realize that they can't afford to go there. And so having that realization in the springtime of senior year can be very difficult for everybody. and it could be avoided if those conversations are had earlier in the process. So when we meet with your son and your family in the fall of his senior year, it's definitely a question that we will be asking, whether or not you guys have had that conversation and what that looks like. Because if you can have that sooner and you can have the realistic expectations set from the beginning, then we can help guide you with college choices that will match your criteria for everything that you're looking for, because it is a family decision and a journey together as a family. So certainly just want to repeat that and make sure that if those conversations haven't started yet, that you are getting started and taking a look at your own finances and what you're able to contribute. Talk to your son about what maybe he will be expected to contribute, and what that looks like as we build that college list. All right, I think I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Smith, and we are almost finished.
Thank you. All right, so we're almost wrapped up here for the evening. Some of what we want to check in is, what are the next steps for our students? What are our responsibilities for our parents? So to begin, first and foremost, this is a pretty broad strokes overview of what we're doing here. And a lot of this will be far more in detail when we work with the students this spring, as well as while we are doing our student family meetings in the fall. And those are specifically for our juniors, right? We're getting ready and getting those next steps going. For our sophomore and freshman families who've joined us, this is a really great idea to see what is coming next in the process. So for the next steps for our juniors, rising seniors, we want them to be proactive, start planning early, complete their own applications neatly, thoroughly. We will help you, guide you along the way, but this is a great part for you to be involved. Keeping track of your deadlines, making sure you're meeting those, creating your own timeline that works for you. There are items for you to complete over the summer. We give you some task items that you can get jump start ahead. Those are all available in Naviance. Those sending your test scores, that's a student responsibility, because those test scores are private to you. They are yours to send alone. So as a reminder, when you're registering for your tests, don't forget to send your free score reports when you have a chance. Also, the biggest and most important piece is that communication is key. We are going to be available to help our students out with whatever comes up, whether it's on campus, if you are sending us an email, if you want to message us in Google Classroom. Really, it will keep you on point moving throughout the whole time. Let's see here for our parent responsibilities. I have wonderful parents here who love to help our students, so we thank you first and foremost. Support your child. Whether that is helping them, sitting down, figuring out which schools that make sense for them, setting up times to visit, helping them with revising their essay if they need some help with that. This is their decision. We want to make sure that you support it as a family. Teach them responsibility. That's going to be the biggest and most important piece of this, is because we're preparing them to make those next steps, to move on as a college student where their parents and all of us won't be right there next to them helping out. Ms. Harger discussed the financial assistance. That's a great conversation to have. It helps form the list. Working with your student to, of course, complete the FAFSA, and we will help you with that in October. Helping them keep track of deadlines, because after all, they are still teenagers and they do need our help. So from our side, we will do so, as from parents too. And then parents, you have your own homework as well. There is a brag sheet to do in Naviance, and we love reading these because it gives us additional insight to our students that maybe they don't always get to share with us, or they're pretty quiet about the things that they do. So this is a really cool component. And most, lastly, I guess I should say, is it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We will continue working throughout this. We start our work running really soon here, and we will continue throughout the year. So by the time that they are completing applications next fall, and at this point of the year, they're going to feel really good about where they are. Following that in the event that you know that your son and you maybe need a little extra support during the summer and you want him to get going, or you just need a little extra hand-holding for that process, we do offer a summer college application workshop. This is completely separate, but a component of what we offer here. So it is listed as a summer school class. They get to do a couple-hour window with their counselors, and we will work with them in small group sessions in the morning so that they still can get to work if they're doing, if they have jobs or participating in athletics or any of those other things. So we want to make sure to maximize the time for them. We will have more information to come as soon as we get our summer school cleared up there. And so then we will kind of process that and give you the opportunity. Our students have really enjoyed it as we go through. And we're excited to be able to offer it again this year. So without further ado, we're going to welcome everyone back, and we're going to answer some of those really great questions that you have been sending us. Okay. All right, so the first question that we are going to throw out here is the Naviance question. We are asking, so when do students get an access to Naviance, and does everybody have access? It's open to everybody.
I'll take it. They're getting it, our freshmen are getting it this semester, you know, the spring semester of their freshman year, and then all the other students have access to it.
Great.
And
yes, Mr. Seibert.
Yeah, and we encourage parents to go on with their sons. We can give access to parents, but really what this is it's a team meeting of sorts where you can get together with your son and go through these resources and exploration concepts together so that you're all on the same page throughout the process.
Excellent. And in the spirit of knowing thyself, do we offer self-assessment tests to discover interests? Naviance does have some of those built in. We do like to supplement those as we're able to do so, and we post them in Google Classroom for our students to get a chance to do that as well. But we do have a set series in Naviance too. Let's see here. Jumping into the applications and testing, is it true that UCs will not be accepting SAT or ACT scores for consideration?
Yes.
Yes, it is true. This year they're not accepting it, and from what we're hearing as in regards to next year, they're going test blind.
And they're phasing it. They're phasing it. Yeah.
One thing that they can submit and put on the application self-report AP scores and SAT subject tests.
Great. And because the SAT and ACT are not taking scores, or they will be suspended in the future, how are they selecting applicants for that or using for consideration?
Which the transcript? They're going to be using their transcripts? Is that the question?
How are they considering students instead of just the test scores and grades?
Which schools?
If you go on one of the slides during my presentation on the UC, and there's different objectives areas that they are looking at, and they're looking at it's a holistic type of application. So they are looking at the GPA, but it also comes down to where they're going to school, also their curriculum, how many AP tests if they've been able to take, the rigor of their curriculum, but also it goes down to their activities, awards, volunteer, work experience. So if you do go on that slide and click on the URL, and it'll talk about the different factors that they're looking at in the applications.
Excellent. And we're seeing a trend of the schools this year, of course, because of the pandemic, that are test optional. What is the trend moving towards as we move forward for all schools, or majority, I should say?
We don't have anything from all of the schools saying giving us that information. But if you read things that are in the Washington Post and, you know, newspapers out there, schools are looking at reevaluating how they use the SATs and ACTs and using them. I think anybody else want to, you know,
I think I think our colleges will be watching the UC, honestly, and see how they handle the not using the ACT or SAT in their admissions process. Because I mean, they're talking 100,000 plus applications, having to differentiate students without standardized testing. I think that people are going to watch California and the UC and CSU system to see how that works for them.
Great, thank you. We'll jump around to a couple other questions. What do you guys recommend studying abroad at a foreign college or university? Do you recommend?
I've had, over the course of my time at Jesuit, I've had 3 students do it. They were all very independent students. It's a country away, so it's a big distance. Different types of education, like the UK has a different program than we have in the United States, just as Canada has programs. So, you know, do your research. The application process is very different than the application process in the United States. It's a great opportunity, but you have to be a very independent student, I think, to be able to do that, because you're so much on your own and mature.
They can be really affordable. I know that much, especially in Canada and the UK and Germany. Their programs can be really affordable for people from out of country.
Also, many of the colleges and universities offer a study abroad program for a semester. So that is another opportunity for students to be able to get that experience while also enrolled in their traditional university in the States here too.
And also those are often very cost effective as well, because these universities themselves have programs in overseas areas. So it's the tuition is the same as if they were going to school in America.
And one thing to also consider, that if your student does go away for a year and starts to gain college credit, and he needs to come back because for whatever reason didn't work, he cannot come back and apply to the UC or CSU system for 2 years. So please remember that part. If you're, he'll go away for a year and then we'll apply and try to get into the UC or CSUs. That will not be happening.
Thank you. Let's see here. So with test scores, we're back to test scores. We love that question, apparently. And what is real interesting for us is we are navigating this along with you. Our counselors have spent, I'd say at least 100 or so more hours collectively over the last semester, attending webinars and reading up on new materials, because the landscape is changing nearly every few days for us. And so we are trying to keep abreast of all the situation. We have really wonderful resources. So as we do get this information, we are doing our best to answer these questions this evening for you, but we will continue to update those questions about testing and advising as far as, say, Naviance, because we have scores in there and not every student now is going to have a score. So that's going to change a little bit as well. But for the test scores, let's go back to that. If you take the ACT, SAT more than once, do colleges use the best score no matter the order?
Yes, colleges will always use the best score. We talked about the term super score in the presentation, and some colleges may do what's called super scoring on the SAT or the ACT. So if a student takes multiple test dates, then they will take the highest score of each subsection and then recalculate for the highest possible composite score. So not all colleges do that. Again, it's kind of college by college, but in any case, they will definitely take the highest score. Even if they receive multiple scores, they'll always look at the highest. And then in some cases, they may also super score.
In regards to, thank you, Ms. Harker. In regards to the SAT and ACT, should my son still take these tests?
I think it depends on your student how prepared they are for it, but I would say they should. You know, I think it's still, we don't know which schools are going to accept testing, which ones aren't, and so you always want to make sure that you're going to be eligible, marketable to a wide variety of universities. And so when you choose not to take the test, that could be problematic for some schools.
And that's also why we recommend always taking the writing portion or the essay portion, because you maybe have a list of 3 or 4 schools now that don't require the writing section, but later on, if you change your mind, you're prepared to, you know, make that move without having to retake the entire test.
There are also scholarships that could be based on SAT and ACT scores. So if your student is gung-ho and ready and prepared to take these tests, and he's able to sit at a testing site to take them, the benefit is there is a benefit to it. It's better to be prepared and take them and have the score rather than not have the score and have to panic at the end to try to get a score.
Excellent, thank you. While we have quite a few questions about test scores, I will try to do my best to answer these in the chat before we end here. But delving off of that, since SAT and ACT scores aren't considered, how important is coursework for senior year? Should they be on the same level of courses they took the previous years? And would it look bad if they decided to take easier courses?
Yes and yes.
Regardless of the SAT and ACT.
Senior year is very important. The schools expect them to know that they're continuing their education. Senior year isn't just a wasted year. No, they're getting ready to go to college. So it's very important.
Great. Is there a rule of thumb or number of schools to apply to? For instance, 2 stretch or 2 most likely to be admitted and 2 no doubt will get in, that type of strategy.
We definitely encourage the students to have a balanced list. So when we talk about the creating the college list, we talk about schools that are reach schools, target schools, and then probable schools. So we never call anything safety or likely because college admissions is so unpredictable. But based on your students' information, we can help guide them in determining which schools fall in each of those categories. And the goal is definitely to have a wide range of schools in each of those 3 categories. But you want to be heavier on the target and the probable side, because that's where you're going to see more acceptances and more scholarship opportunities. So certainly we want schools in the reach category as well, but we don't want to be so top heavy in the reach category and not as many, you know, in the target or probable. So there's not a certain number in each, but we just want to make sure that it's well balanced. And that's absolutely a conversation that we have with you and your son in that senior meeting.
Wonderful, thank you. How are community service hours and service projects being considered on resumes during time of COVID? These were historically important, but impossible to earn during COVID, ?
Well, quite honestly, they're not impossible to earn because we still have a service component that's going on at Jesuit in regards to, various of our students. So there are opportunities, just maybe not personal one-on-one, face-to-face, in-house opportunities. So they definitely weigh heavily on an application, and especially now because of the opportunities that are lessened, that I believe colleges can look at that knowing that that list can decrease. But if your son is continuing to do those things, I think it stands out even more than before.
Thank you. Since we cannot visit colleges' campuses currently, can Jesuit help connect students with a fellow alum or faculty member that has gone to their school of interest or have some insight? What are the other options for students to connect during this time? And especially since the online videos don't offer the real flavor often.
What we had this fall is college reps were doing coming on campus via Zoom in that respect, and students can meet one-on-one with the college representatives. So it was really, really great. And we've all listened to the webinars that they've showed for the universities, and I thought it was really nice. It was different than just talking to the rep. You get the actual view of the college that way. And I know there's a part of the question I didn't answer, but I forgot what it was. But there's two.
Does Jesuit connect? Are we able to connect our alumni to current students or faculty members that we know of?
If I have a student on my caseload that's gone to a university and I'm aware of that, I've had students that leave say, Ms. Van Liefde, anybody has a question, you just have them call me. And that's really nice. So if that happens, I always turn that over. There isn't an official program that we have to connect students. And then oftentimes you can talk to the admissions rep at the university and find out if there's another student from that school, the representative from your local school. To
And our alumni
information
office.
That way.
Our alumni office as well. So we do have that connection piece from our alumni at Jesuit who can coordinate communications. Often when we do our career event in the spring, they will connect there as well. So there are a lot of different ways that we can definitely get an opportunity for students to have a little bit more of a personal interaction with fellow students who attended Jesuit, or connections that we may have as well.
I still think it's also very important that we have so many colleges here just in Northern California that parents can put their son in the car and you can drive over to UOP. You can drive over to Cal, you can drive to UC Davis, you can go through Sac State, you can go through USF, you can go to Santa Clara, you can go to, all the smaller, you can go to St. Mary's, you can, there are so many colleges within an hour and a half away from us just by driving and seeing the differences of campuses. Then going on virtual tours, then talking to admission reps, and then yes, if we can get them hooked up with the personal aspect of it, of our alumni, that even adds to it.
Great, thank you. Quite a few questions about slides being available. Yes, absolutely. We will make sure that those are available. The links will be clickable. We'll have both a recorded version as well as our presentation, so you have just the slides without having to rewatch the entire event. In the event, let's see here, we have a couple others that I would like to answer as we wrap up here. As far as all these dates and deadlines, how do we make sure students are getting those communicated? And are we good?
If I emphasized it enough, I don't think I did. I think it was on my slides, but there is a classroom that they'll sign up for that we do through the counseling office for college admissions that will post dates and things that, so they should be watching classroom like they would anything else. And I also mentioned the newsletter that comes out. There's a lot of communication comes out from the counseling department, specific to students, but also to parents that help to keep them on track with timelines.
There's a timeline listed in the college planning handbook. There was a link to the college planning handbook, and there's a timeline for them there also.
And our seniors will have a timeline that we give to them during their student family meeting as well. So their form, we create a form and kind of give their timeline and a game plan, and so that all of those things are set for them as well. Okay, I think we have time for, let's see, maybe one or two more questions. We have here on, let's see, what about super scores? Let me see. So super scores for the SAT, why would you send a free one if that might not be the best result for your student?
Well, just like Ms. Harger said, the schools are going to look at your best test, and it's what was SAT was 1150. If you're applying to 10 schools, that can add up. And so taking advantage of the 4 free, if you want to, you can. It's completely optional.
Some of the college representatives that I've also talked to about that is that they may see a low score, but they're not going to hold that against a student, because what they're going to do, they're going to see the increased numbers as it's gone up and saying, wow, this student really took the time to study and to work hard and improve their score this many more points. So that actually gives weight to the application.
And that way it can be like a transcript as well, because we talk to the students a lot about upward trend in grades. You can have an upward trend in your scores as well that reflects really well on your character as a student.
Great. Thank you everyone for this. I think one last one here is really like, how do we move forward with our Jesuit students? What are the things that we want them to take away this evening for our families?
Breathe.
Right fit.
We're in this together.
Know yourself.
There's a lot of support from all of us.
Yeah, I think we all have a lot of experience doing this. I'm new back in the counseling department, but I've been a counselor a long time. I think we've all been doing this a while. You have a lot of collective knowledge here. We work a lot very closely with each other. There's a lot of support.
Great. Thank you all for your time. We are going to stay on and chat some of these questions as we wrap up here, but we wanted to say thank you very much for the evening, and we hope that you take the time to read our newsletters, to talk with your son. Scheduling is coming up, and so that will be another big conversation that we have there, where we'll kind of discuss their plan, next steps, making sure that they are prepared as we move forward to the next phase, selecting those courses. And then we do have a new process this year that will be giving us the opportunity to send you the document electronically. Times of COVID have changed our ways, and we're super excited to be able to get that information to you in a quick and efficient manner, and help your son in preparing for next year. So thank you much for your time. Our counselors will stay on and answer our chat messages here so that you have everything if you have not seen an answer come through yet. Have a nice evening. Bye.